My Life Between Lives story from Newton-trained Institute practitioners.
I see a whole change in the thrust of searching for answers about who we are and why we're here. And I think it's wonderful, and I just hope the movement continues to expand.
Let us expand the universal consciousness together with a My Life Between Lives story presented by the Michael Newton Institute.
Welcome to My LBL Story. My name is Ikamananda. Today we have special guest, Danny Stott. Danny specializes in healing trauma and addiction using the power of transformative hypnosis to empower and awaken his clients. With more than 25 years of experience in the healing profession, Danny's path has evolved from being a paramedic to practicing acupuncture and Reiki, ultimately leading him to his current role as a dedicated clinical and spiritual hypnotherapist. As a Michael Newton Institute certified Life Between Lives therapist, Danny skillfully guides individuals on profound spiritual journeys that transcend the physical realm, helping them uncover their true soul purpose. A big warm welcome to Danny. Thanks for coming to the show.
Delighted to be here.
So awesome to learn your story. And perhaps my first question is, how did you start your spiritual journey? A big warm welcome to Danny. Thanks for coming to the show.
Delighted to be here, Ekamananda.
You started from a paramedic. How did you transit from a paramedic to a spiritual hypnotherapist?
That was 25 years ago. I was working as a paramedic for the London Ambulance. When I decided I wanted to be a paramedic, it was the first time in my life that I'd felt something deep inside of me guiding me. Before that, I'd worked in the financial futures market, just trying to make lots of money. And then at some point, something inside of me said, you need to do something different with your life, Danny. You need to do something where you're helping other people. And I've never had that before in my life. And I was about 24, and it felt like my soul or something was talking to me, and kind of knew deep down, right, yeah, it's nice to have lots of money. And but I realized that the stock market wasn't the place for me. And so, I got a job as a paramedic and absolutely loved it. And it really brought me the first time in my life where I was actually really helping other people. And it really taught me a great deal about being in literally life and death situations, and how to be there with people at the most difficult points in their life. So yeah, that was the start of me realizing that I want to be involved with helping people. When you're a paramedic, you're also, I think it's the top 3 jobs that are involved with death. So I was seeing death, I wouldn't say a daily basis, but a couple of times a week you're encountering dying people, dead people. And you start asking yourself more questions. What's going on? Where are they going to? Seeing people pass away in front of me. A couple of times I saw, they kind of went, and I saw there was something, I sensed something left them. I sensed there was something going on there. But yeah, being a paramedic kind of got me comfortable around being around life and death situations, and really made me want to understand, why are we here? What's going on?
How old were you when you experienced this regular death scene?
28, 20, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32. I did it for about 6 years. So yeah, it's a wonderful job, it really is, and being a paramedic. But it got me really kind of searching and trying and wanting to find out more. So it kind of put me on this path where I just wanted to find the answers. And I didn't really care what the answer was. I was hoping it was going to be a good answer. I was hoping there was somewhere wonderful we were going to go to. But I was also going at it very scientifically. And I just wanted to know what happens when we die. So it got me kind of investigating all different religions, spiritualities. I was a Catholic, went to a Catholic school, loved the Bible, loved Jesus, never questioned it, just believed what my mum said, what the priest said, what the school said. But then eventually I started really researching the Bible and studying it and finding out, who actually wrote the Bible, who wrote the Gospels, who was Matthew, Mark, Luke and John. And then reading up other religions as well, and just going over many different religions. And it put me at a point where I kind of became an atheist for a while, maybe for about a year or so. And I kind of thought, right, no, this is all made up. This is all a load of nonsense. And we've been lied to. But then I carried on researching. If the evidence showed me that we were just going to be, worm food, that we were here for, 70 and then we died and that was it. If that was the deal, then I was going to just, if that's the truth, that's the truth. But I kept digging, I kept researching. And then eventually, after a couple of years being kind of agnostic, atheist, I read a book on near-death experiences called The Wisdom of Near-Death Experiences by, I think, Dr. Satori. And she was a nurse and she'd worked in hospitals, A&E. She's now qualified and she's now a doctor. She very scientifically wrote this book about near-death experiences. And once I started studying near-death experiences, the evidence is overwhelming. From people like Raymond Moody and many others who've studied near-death experiences. So I then researched that subject, and that really opened my mind. So yeah, that then put me on a bit of that opened my mind more spiritually when I discovered near-death experiences, and that led on to kind of where I am now.
How wonderful! That's kind of played a critical or pivotal role in leading you on wanting to find out more. Where do we go after leaving the body? Is there a true heaven? What does it look like? What do we do in spiritual realm?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I didn't, when I was a paramedic, when I seen people dying, I wasn't sure if they were going somewhere nice or not, and I just really wanted to find out. And I went with an open mind, a scientific mind, and looked at as much evidence as I could. And when you look at all the evidence with an open mind, that's the key thing. We all have our biases. Everyone has their own, unconscious biases. So you have to be aware of your own biases. And then when you go at things with an open mind, you realize the evidence is overwhelming that we are eternal spiritual souls. And there's a couple of good books. There's one called, I think it's a lawyer investigates the case for the afterlife, and it's not actually a lawyer, but it's just I think there's a web page, and there's they had about 1 million different people sign up for it, and it was just all evidence showing that there's an afterlife, and that evidence comes in the forms of near-death experiences, of cases of reincarnation that can't be disproved. Like Dr. Ian Stevenson wrote a book called 20 Cases of Reincarnation That Can't Be Disproved. Amazing book, amazing research. And many sort of clairvoyants and mediums who've contacted people. And there's many people, just normal people, and who probably about 1 in 5 people, if you ask them, have they ever had a relative or a loved one contact you, about 1 in 5 will say, yeah. They, after someone passed away, something happened that they know was their loved one, communicating with them. So yeah, when you look at all the evidence with an open mind, it's quite clear that we're eternal souls, which is quite wonderful.
Yes, so much more evidence, stories. Scientists, doctors, lawyers, people who are very evidence driven these days has published so many books, papers, research results, and there are many YouTube projects on Gaia channels. There's so many materials, so many things, so many videos. You can just simply go watch, ask the question, deep dive in, and find out yourself.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. But it's great reading these things, and you can learn so much. But you need to go. I realised you have to go and have the experience. So I can read something in a book, and then read another person in a book, and another person in a book, confirming it. But on some level, I realised I need to experience this rather than just keep reading it.
That's correct. I always say that knowing isn't good enough. You have to live in it, which means you have to live by your own experience, and then you can really truly grasp that wisdom.
Yeah.
So speaking of that, did you say you had a coma experience?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Tell us more about it.
I had some issues with alcohol and sleeping tablets. So I was addicted to something called clonazepam. And the alcohol was never a big problem for me. But once I got a problem with the clonazepam, then sometimes when I would drink, I would black out and I would pass out and not know what I'm doing. So I kind of knew, right, Danny, don't drink with these tablets. But sometimes I couldn't control that urge to go and drink. About 15 years ago, I don't even know exactly what's going on, but I was drinking with some friends. I went home and I woke up in a hospital 2 weeks later. And when I woke up in a hospital, I had my family around me, kind of like over the moon that I was talking to them. And I was like, what are you all doing here? You know? And they were like, you've been in a coma. And I'm like, what? No. And it felt like I just was at home in my flat. And then the next second I'm waking up in hospital. And they're telling me it's 2 weeks, but it felt like 2 minutes. And I'm like, why am I in hospital? And they said, oh, you've been in a coma because you took an overdose. And I'm like, no, I didn't. I said, I never took I said, what are you talking about? And they were like, Danny, you did, you took an overdose. And I was like, no, I must have been in a car crash. And for 3 days, I didn't believe them. When you come out of a coma, it's called ITU hallucinations, or there's some kind of technical term for it. But when you come out of a coma, your brain is upside down for about 2-3 days. So you hallucinate a lot and it takes a while to become lucid. But I had no recollection of taking the tablets. And so when I came out of that coma, it was quite amazing, really, because one, I really felt the love from my family, which was quite amazing, really. You know, I got to find out what it would be like if I wasn't here. And that was so overwhelming to feel that love. Because at that point in my life, it wasn't a great time. Hence, I was drinking too much. But when I came out of the hospital, I was really shocked that I'd taken an overdose, because it wasn't in my conscious mind. I wasn't thinking about doing anything like that. And I was scared that if I didn't mean to do it that time, well, might I do it in the future? So I really started studying, even more so, what happens when you die. It became, right, I need to know now. I need to really find this out. So I studied it, you know, like a degree at university. And it was by studying what happens when you die that I encountered Michael Newton. You know, I discovered near-death experiences, and I also learned from Michael Newton, his books, when people if they do kill themselves, on the other side, there's no judgment, but it's the person themselves that's disappointed. they're the one that kind of is kicking themselves because they know they came here to learn certain lessons. And when life gets a bit choppy, that's when we're really learning. That's when we are growing as a soul, as difficult as it might be as a human. And then we're just going to have to come back again and go through a similar life to learn those lessons. And the Buddhists say, if you kill yourself in anguish, you come back in anguish. And one of the stories from one of, I think, Michael Newton's books, someone who committed suicide in one of their lives, on the other side, so they wouldn't do it again, they had to do 100 years of schooling on the other side to prepare them for coming back. And I remember thinking, I don't want to do 100 years of school on the other side. You know, this has really helped me as a therapist as well. I get a number of people, I get many, many clients for addictions, traumas. Every now and then they tell me they're thinking about killing themselves. And then, you know, I've learned from some really good therapists that it's good sometimes to share your stuff at certain times, to jump in the hole with your client, take them by the hand and show them how to get out. So I put out to the universe quite often when I'm trying to attract certain clients. I put out to the universe and my guides, send me the people that I can help. And they're going to be the ones with addictions and suicide issues. Or, you know, and I have people for weight loss, smoking, everything. But yeah, there's no one that I turn down.
I'm interested in your working with these suicidal people, addiction people. I mean, people who have a suicidal tendency or heavily addicted to substance. So that's a common sort of insight from the spiritual realm, the 100 years study in the spiritual realm. I'm assuming that 100 years is going to be is different to Earth's time.
Yeah, no, of course, yeah. And that's probably not every soul has to go and do a load of studying. It was just that soul was just asked to do some extra learning to help them. But time's obviously different on the other side, isn't it?
Do we have an idea how, let's say, 1 year on Earth is how long in the spiritual world?
It's a good question, that, isn't it? Yeah. It's like when someone comes and is, say, haunting a house or a place, they will often be there for a couple of 100 years. But for the soul, it feels like they're only there for a few days, a few weeks.
Interesting, isn't it? The time shrinks or expanded to the spirit.
Yeah, or doesn't even really exist. So
exactly, yeah. They say the moment when we realize there's a time, the illusion began. The dream began. And some people perhaps, you know, a minute there is a year here, others might be 5 years here. So it might be an individual's thing.
Yeah, who knows, yeah. So, but what I do know is that 80 years on Earth for a soul is like that. So for us coming into a life, a difficult life of 80 difficult years, say, for someone, and it might feel like that life is just a forever of pain. On the other side, when they chose that life, they were like, oh, okay, yeah, that's 80 years, it'd be difficult, but on the other side, it's like a day.
A day trip.
Yeah, like a day trip. Yeah, exactly.
Well, I'd much prefer to be on the other side then.
Yeah.
Well, you know, you see, 80 years here is a long time, right? But a day trip it happens quite fast. We don't want to struggle for that long.
There is part of me that kind of, you know, when I do move over to the other side, I'm sure it's going to be a wonderful experience. But I also know it's so important for me to do well in this life. This is where my soul is learning. This is where my soul is growing. And, you know, I heard of someone who had a near-death experience. Afterwards, they were really disappointed that they weren't allowed to stay on the other side. And they were actually quite depressed for about a year afterwards. because they were annoyed that they had to come back to Earth and carry on their life with their family and their kids and their job. I know, Danny, you've got to do the best you can here in this life. You've got to seize every opportunity, be fearless, follow your bliss is my mantra. And so when I get to the other side, I can look back and be pleased with what I've done here.
Well, the body is the instrument, so I guess we do have to treasure the time here when you are breathing,